Hey, welcome back. All right, let's start to actually implement reactions so that our users can react to messages they received, and they can also react to the ones they sent, even though I think that should be illegal. All right, before we do that, I would have a nice reaction to if you guys could help me get 100 likes on this video. That would be really cool. Actually, let's see if we can do that. Okay, so let's get rolling with the code. Make sure that your server is running. Mine is. And we need to create a new DB model. So actually, let's open the terminal again. I'm going to open a new window. And in the root directory, I'm going to say Sequelize model generate. You know what you're doing by now. So name, this will be reaction. And let's give it a couple of attributes. So we'll have a content attribute, which holds the reaction itself, which will be a string. And we'll have also a UUID, which will be a UUID. I believe that works. I'm actually just going to hit enter for now because my terminal bugged out. Let's go to models, reaction. Here I'm just going to rename this because I prefer class names to start with a capital letter. So we got that looks good. Here let's add a table name. So table name. I'll call this reactions with a small r. And here actually I'm going to change this. This needs to be required or not non-nullable. You need to add type here. And let's add a allow null false. And I'm just going to repeat this. Or actually, no, this is a bit different. So I'm going to open curly braces and say type for this. And this needs to have a default UUID v4 type or like value. So default value of data types. Data types dot UUID v4 like so, and actually we can omit the allow null because we're not actually, each time we use the ORM it's not gonna give a null value, it's gonna give a default value, so we can leave it as it is. I'm gonna add two fields because for each reaction we need to be able to fetch the message that this reaction was sent to, and also who the user that created this reaction, or who the user that that this reaction belongs to. So we'll add a message ID, and this will be of type data types dot integer. Integer, actually all uppercase. I misspelled it. Integer, and of course allow null of false, because we could actually set this ourselves and give it a value. And we can say user ID like this, and the type will be the same. We can actually just copy this and paste it here. And we need to now we're going to use the associate method to initialize associations. So we're only going to use one association here, one way. So this is a one-to-many, meaning that the user can have multiple reactions, but the reaction only belongs to one user. So here we'll say this. And here we get all the models, so we can destructure the models that we need. And we need both the user and the message models. And here we'll say this dot belongs to. And you can read this in documentation, by the way. And we'll pass the message model, and we can repeat it one more time and pass the user model. This by default will actually be fetching these fields, and then based on the value of these fields, fetching the model that that these fields pertain to. And we'll see this in action in a second. Let's head over to the migration and update it. I'm gonna actually copy what we added in the reaction initialize function. So UUID up to user ID, actually including the content as well. So let's copy all of that. Let's go to the migration. So from the content down to UUID, paste that. Make sure to change the data types to Sequelize and save. That should be fine. Actually, the name of the table, I'll change that to reactions with small r in both of them. And now we can run the migration. So let's go to the terminal, say Sequelize db migrate. All right, that's migrated. Now let's start to create the GraphQL type definitions and the resolvers. So let's go to type definitions in GraphQL. And here I'm going to create a new type. So let's go down here and say type reaction. And this will have the same fields that we created in the model. So we'll have the UUID, which is a required string, and we'll have the content, which is the emote of the reaction. So string required. And we'll have also the created at in case we need to use it somewhere. And here I'm going to add the message, an object message of type message. And that's required. I'm going to do the same thing for user, so we can get the user of the reaction. And here I'm going to add another mutation. So under send message, I'll call this react to message. And in order to react to a message, we need two things: the UUID of the message, so UUID, and that's of type string, and it's required, and also the content of the reaction, and that's also a string, and that's required. And this will return a type of reaction, and that's required as well. So let's save. And now let's go to the, actually we can add it to the messages resolver. So let's go to messages and resolvers. Let's scroll up. So here inside of mutations, after the send message mutation, I'm going to add that react to message mutation. So let's say react to message equals an async resolver. So we don't need the parent, put an underscore there. And from the args, we're going to get the UUID and the content. And we'll need the user from the context because we need to be authenticated to react to a message. So let's open a code block. And here let's open a try catch block. So try, and I'll do catch error, throw error. And here, first thing, let's validate that the reaction itself is valid. So for this, our reaction needs to be one of a couple of reactions, and I'll show you the array. So reactions, I'll paste that in, and this will be in the video description. This matches exactly the reactions that we can use on Messenger. So of course you can add more if you want, but I'm sticking for these for now. And inside the try catch block, the first thing we do, we need to check if content is one of these. So we can simply use the includes function. So we'll say if not, reactions dot includes, and we'll pass it the content that we got. Then we can immediately throw a new user input error, and this will say invalid reaction or reaction. All right. Otherwise, if the reaction is valid, first thing we need to do, I'm actually going to put a couple of comments. I haven't been doing that, but you should always comment your code. It makes it easier to read. So here I'll say validate reaction content. I also don't like doing it in videos because it just makes the videos longer, just a little bit. So here I'll say get user. So we need to get the user. So I'll say const username. We need to fetch the username because the user object itself might not be there. So we'll say const username equals. So we'll do a ternary user question mark. So if user is not null, this will be user.username. Else it will be an empty string. And I'm gonna run a SQL query to get this user, and we'll reassign this value of this user. So we'll say user equals, and let's say await user.find1, and the condition will be where, and just username like this. And now we need to check if the user is not null. Actually, Sequelize needs to have like a find or fail method that throws automatically this error. I mean, we could create it as well, but I'm okay for now. Let's just keep going. So if not user, then we simply throw a new error, and actually I'll throw an authentication error. Authentication error, and this will say unauthenticated. And here let's get the message itself. So we'll say const message equals await message dot find one, and the condition will be where and UUID that we passed in the arguments. And we can do the same thing to check if the message is not if the message is invalid. So we'll say if not message, then throw new error, or use actually a user input error and say message not found. Now I know this is like a lot of code before we even get to creating the reaction itself, but this is safe code, you know, like I know our UI is going to be the only thing that consumes this API, but it still needs to be safe, you know, if the user tries to mess around and you know, break our app. So we'll say here we need to check if this user, you know, is allowed to react to this message. So they're only allowed if this message is theirs, that they sent it or they received it. So you can simply say if message.from equals user, or actually no, we check the other way around, that it doesn't equal. So if message.from does not equal user.username and message.to does not equal user.username. And here, if that's the case, we'll throw a new, actually we'll use a new type of error here, because here it means the user is logged in, but they're not allowed to do this, to perform this action. So this is not the authentication error, this is a forbidden error. So let's import that. We say forbidden error, and actually need to put a comma. Let's go back down. And here we'll throw that forbidden error. By the way, in like a regular REST API, this will be the equivalent of a 401, or a 403 rather. So we'll say forbidden error, and this will say unauthorized, like so. Otherwise, then here we create the reaction. So let's say const reaction equals await reaction, which reminds me we need to import it. So let's go back up, and here we'll add the reaction from models. Let's go back down, let's say dot create, or actually no, we don't create, because here there might be already a reaction from this user to this message, and if that's the case, we just want to update it. So first we try to find it. So let's say find one, and the condition will be where the message ID is the same as this message. So message ID, message.id, and also the user ID is the user.id. So we'll check if the reaction exists. So if reaction, then let's put a comment here. Reaction exists, updated, like this. So here we can simply say reaction.content equals this new content. And we can say await reaction.save, which persists the data in the database. Else, then we'll say reaction doesn't exist, create it. And here we'll say reaction equals await reaction.create, and it will have a message ID of message.id, user ID of user.id, and the content of just content, which is in the argument, so we can leave it like that. And now we simply return reaction, and we can finally test something now. It says unreachable code. Oh, I made a typo here. All right, correct that. Let's make sure there's no errors. Cool, there isn't. So let's go to the playground. I'm just going to log in to get a new token. I'll copy that, paste it here. Let's send a new message to get a UID. So, hello, Jane. I don't know how many times we typed this message. So I'm going to take that UID. And now I'm going to write that new mutation that we just created. So mutation, react, and this will be react to message. And we'll pass it the UID and also the content. I'm going to copy one of those emotes. So let's use the love one. And that's weird. He sent hello and then he's going to love his own message. What are you doing, John? All right. So the content will be that love emote. And we're going to get a message back so we can get, or a reaction rather. So we can get the UID, the content, and let's get the created at, and let's submit that. All right. Message.find. Oh, okay. Find one. I made the typo. So that would be this. So that's find one. Let's go back. Let me send that. Assignment to constant variable. That's oh yeah, that would be the reaction. So just gonna change this to let, and third time is the charm. Let's go. Hey, there we go. So we get this reaction, and we can actually change this. And this is the created in the database. You can check yours. I'm sure it created in mine. So I'm just gonna actually add that the mapper thing or whatever, like the field resolver. So let's go to the index in resolvers. I'm just gonna copy this 2 more times. So one would be for the user, and this one would be for the reaction. And I know there was a problem last time, and I now know where it's coming from. So in the users, I'm gonna find the created at. So yeah, we were already mapping it, and then we tried to map it again, and that was the problem. So now I'm gonna remove that, and that shouldn't be a problem when you actually log in. So now let's go back and create that. You see the UID didn't change because it just updated the reaction. But if we try to get the message that this reaction belongs to, this will fail. Okay, so let's add like 2 fields because we're not resolving these fields yet. So let's do that. There's 2 ways of doing that. We can include them here, but we can also include them in the field resolvers, which is what I'm going to do. So here inside of reaction, we're going to add the message field, and this will be an async resolver, and it will take the parent and it will return. So it will say await message dot, oh, we need to import it. So let's say const. Actually, we need to import the user as well. So user and message, message acquire models. So we need to go back 2 levels and get from models. And here await message dot find by pk, and we'll use the parent dot message ID. We can duplicate that 1 more time and do the exact same thing for user. So Control D and type user. And here this needs to be lowercase u, and that should work. Now this worst case scenario is if we create a reaction and we also want the message and the user, it's going to execute 3 SQL queries. So that's okay. It's not as bad. Okay, so it doesn't have the n+1 problem basically. So here we'll say user with no colon, and let's get the UID, the username, and there is no UID. Let's get the image URL, and let's run that. Okay, there's added an extra pair of braces. All right, so we're getting the message and the user, but we're getting the email of the user, which is of course that's not allowed. So we can simply, in the user field resolver, we can just select those fields. Here for the second argument to the find by pk, we can add some options. So let's open an array, or object rather, and let's use the attributes key and only get the username, the image URL, and the created at. So save that. And now if we go here, let's also add the created at. Email is going to be null. Cool. So we can't get the email of the user, which is the intended behavior. All right. So reactions as a mutation works, but now let's add a subscription as well, so that we can get the new reactions as they happen in real time. All right. Let's go to our type definitions. Where's that? Type definitions. And here it's going to be identical to the new message subscription. So let's change this to reaction like this. Save. And let's go to messages. I'm actually going to copy the new message subscription and just paste it underneath, and basically change anything that says message to reaction. So start here, reaction, and that will get that. We'll filter. That's fine. That's fine. If we're not authenticated, we throw an error. And here we'll listen to new reaction. Reaction like this. Why am I doing an array here? Should be without an array because there's only one event. That means I'm doing it here as well, so I can remove this these square brackets, and that should work the same. And here we get, instead of new message, we're going to get new reaction. But here we actually don't have the message. We need to check this. We need to run the same check, but we need to fetch the message. And remember, the message is not fetched from resolver. It's only fetched in the field resolvers. So we need to fetch it here because it hasn't been fetched yet. So we can simply say const message equals, and SQLize automatically adds these getters for us. So we can say await new reaction dot get message, and this will get the message that's attached to this reaction. And this basically based on the model name. So we need to make this async for this to work. So make this async. And now we can change this new message to simply say message. So if this, if it's the from or the to is the username, this user's username, then they're allowed to see this reaction. So we just send it to them. And of course, we need to broadcast this event for us to be able to send that data. So let's go, yeah, inside of here. Actually, let's get the pub sub from the context. So let's say pub sub here. And down here, before we return the reaction, we can say pub sub dot publish. And I'm gonna publish that new underscore reaction reaction event, and the payload will have a new reaction, and it will have the reaction in there. Now, I understand this reaction might not be new; it can be an old one, but it's whatever. That's just the name, right? Let's save. Make sure we don't have any errors, and let's actually update, or actually let's run the subscription first. So here, let's go here and say subscription, new reaction, and this will be new reaction, and we'll get the content, the created at, and UID. What else? Get the message. Wait, can we get the message? I don't think we can. But actually, let's test it first that it works. So I'm gonna run it. Oh, it says unauthenticated. Let's grab the authorization header from there and paste it here and run this. Oh, there's the problem, is there? Let me refresh this, run it. I don't know why it's still saying, okay, now it's working. So it's listening. Now, let's change this reaction into, actually, I'm just gonna put this on a new line so we can see it. I'm gonna change this into a different reaction. So let me grab the thumbs up. Oh, let's go back, update that, run it. There we go. And there we go. We get the reaction in the new reaction subscription. So that's working. Let's try to get the message. I want to see if we can get that. I don't think we can because that's in the field resolvers. Just going to refresh it to get rid of that payload. Run it. And let's change this. Just look at the query because I wanted to show you something as well. So I'm going to stop this for a second. So if we send this now, actually, let's change it first. So I'm going to change it to the mad emote. So send it, go back, go to the console. Actually, I turned off the logging. Oops. Let's go to the config. I'm just going to remove this line just to make it log again. All right, send. Let's revert it to a thumbs up. Okay, so forget about those first ones. We just get the user and the message. And then there's this one. Where is it? Right here. So update reaction, set content, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you see it updates it when we change it. Okay, so let me clear the console and run again. But if I send the same reaction, you notice that there is no update statement. They're all just select statements, which is a pretty nice optimization that SQLize does, which is that even though we have a block of code, where is it? Right here, that checks if the reaction exists, update the content, and run save. But if you run save and the model hasn't changed, it doesn't actually run a SQL query. It just it doesn't do anything, which is pretty cool. So right now, I believe we can't get the fields. We can't get the subfields like the message and the user fields because we're not adding them. Or actually, no, we are. Oh, I forgot. We added them to the field resolvers. Okay. That's fine, I guess. That's cool. It's working. So yeah, that's the back-end side of reactions. I don't want to do the front end as well because that will take a little bit of time. I'm going to leave it to its own video, which will probably be the last video in this series. So yeah, thank you for watching. Please do drop a like. That helps a lot. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section. If you like anything, if you just want to say hello, you can drop a comment. I don't mind. I'm replying and reading all of them. So yeah, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.